Okay, hi. So we're going to
Hi.
talk about self-confidence in kids. That was the number one most requested podcast topic. Before we get into that, do you want to talk about what's going on with your arm?
I had to drive my son he's on a traveling soccer team, and it was quite far. And there's two ways to go. There's one that's a shorter way that's a little bit more dangerous. The other way is longer. So I try to go the shorter way, and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And it starts snowing randomly. And I do not have snow tires on my car right now because it's fall. And I skid out, and luckily I knew what to do, but I was so scared, and I was definitely cursing. And my 11-year-old son was trying to keep me calm. And he's like, don't worry. And I was like, I'm so sorry. You're going to be late to your game. I can't go this way. I have to turn around. So I turn around, and so I proceed to go the other way. I drove for 6 hours straight without stopping and gripped the steering wheel for so long that I messed up my arm, and I literally couldn't go like this when I was working out. And so I worked with a physical therapist that did dry needling and like would twitch the muscles.
Dry needling is different than acupuncture.
Different than acupuncture. And you have to be trained in it. And it's a physical therapist who does it. And you basically stick a needle in and you get the muscle to twitch. So the muscle fibers, they're kind of contracted, and you have to get them to relax, right? And so she says she was like, it's got to be connected up here to your neck, nothing. She's like, I've never seen an injury from gripping a steering wheel.
Even in Colorado. That's amazing.
In Colorado, well, everybody else seems to be totally fine driving this.
So to me, the funniest part of this is that Natasha calls me and she's like, oh, shoot, I forgot to videotape the dry needling, and it was so cool. Maybe when you come, we could just dry needle you for something.
Dry needle you.
And videotape it.
We'll loosen Emily up. It'll be
I'm
good.
ready. Bring on the dry needles. You can film me anytime.
Anyways, it really helped. It helped. So it'll be a little sore for 24 hours because I've been using my loom box, which helps a lot, but I couldn't quite get to certain workouts that I wanted to
bring in the big guns.
I had to bring in the big guns.
Okay,
so we're talking about.
I'll give you my thing of the week. Kayla from the Family Food Project posted about this sourdough bakery place that's like gluten-free.
Gluten-free. Yeah.
And I'm gluten-free.
For those who don't know, Emily has to be gluten-free.
Have to be gluten-free. So excited about this. Ordered, I don't even like Pop-Tarts. She makes Pop-Tarts. That wasn't why I ordered it, but I was like, great, that's cool too. And then she makes these chocolate chip cookies, and they look delicious. So I put those in the basket. They are the best chocolate chip. Hands down, I have sampled chocolate chip cookies all over the world. I am telling you, I have never had a better chocolate chip cookie in my life. You laugh now. I am bringing them for you. They are insane.
My husband, because he's gluten-free, he'll be very excited.
They're insane. He's going to be like.
FYI, though, I saw in the Pop-Tarts, it looked like the sprinkles had died. So I'm like,
dye-free.
Really?
Correct.
I'm impressed and impressed that you checked it too.
Yes, I'm not into dyes.
Great. Okay. Yeah. I'm not super gluten. I can eat gluten. That's why I haven't looked at this company, but that's amazing.
Yeah. I'll bring the chocolate chip cookies for your husband because they are so good.
Oh, that's awesome. Yay.
So there's that. Okay. Talk to me about self-confidence. Let's talk some self-confidence today. For me and others.
So I think we have to look at it with first having rhythm for kids. When kids know what to expect, they can step into a new experience and they can feel empowered, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why rhythm is so important. Also, I find that a lot of parents tell me, oh, I really don't like when my kids will say like, I don't love you. You're the worst mommy ever. I thrive on having my kids tell me that. I don't take it personally, and the reason for that is because I know that my kids have no problem standing up to me. I want your kids to feel comfortable standing up to you. It doesn't mean it's okay to backtalk to you or say things to you, but I want them to feel comfortable standing up to you because it builds up their self-confidence and they feel comfortable enough and safe enough to say that to you.
Hmm.
Yeah. Also, I want to give them opportunities where they can do things and they can feel that internal motivation and accomplish feelings. For my kids, we love to do handwork, right? And it's something that's very promoted in Waldorf. And they start with kindergarten and they do finger knitting, and then they make their own knitting needles and they start to knit, and they go and they crochet, and they go from there and they kind of build up. But when they struggle with it at first, they might say like, oh, I can't do this. And I like to correct the kids and say, you can't do it yet. And that simple phrase of yet really helps a child understand, well, I can't do it yet, but that means I can do it. And so when they start to see that they can do something that may be hard for them, but they're fully capable of, like finger knitting for a kindergartner, they can make something that really matters, right, to them. And they can feel that confidence boost. It's the same thing when giving tasks to kids, like responsibilities, and why I like focus so much on responsibilities. You don't want to give something too easy, and you don't want to give something too challenging, but you want to give something just outside their comfort zone so that when they do accomplish it, they can say, oh, I can do this, right? So obviously telling a child to clean the room, I'm like, well, I can clean my room, but like, I don't want to. And so many of us struggle with that, right? And Emily's looking at me, she's like, oh yeah, I can relate to that.
Sure.
But when I allow my child to go cook something, to go use a knife, to make some eggs on the stove that might make someone nervous, who I'm talking to right now, Emily.
No, I've gotten so good. You kidding me? You making eggs every morning?
I'm talking 5 years ago.
Thanks to you. I say this
Yeah.
all the time. If you don't allow your child, this is what you taught me. You don't allow your child from a young age to participate in things like that, they won't want to do it at an older age. But if you
Correct.
allow them at a younger age, even though it does take quite a bit of extra work on your part, or
And
extra
patience.
stress or extra patience, the long-term benefits pay off.
Yes. And so when they can do something like that, or like sending them into a store to go buy something, it might be scary at first, but it boosts their confidence. And so I think we have an episode on that. We can probably link that on like creating independence and fostering independence, right?
Sure, yeah.
It's called. But I talk about like different ways and ages and how I get my kids to do that and how it boosts their confidence. And
actually, you have a great chart on your website. I know you know all about your website, but
I don't even know how to go on the website.
You have a great downloadable chart on your website, all the responsibilities that you encourage kids to do.
Oh, categorized by age.
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to self-confidence, I find that a lot of kids I've worked with, they get really frustrated when they get signed up for art classes or when they're doing art with parents or at school, because they're being pushed beyond their capabilities. Kids shouldn't know what or how to draw at first. I want them to learn. And there's a very much developmental progress to drawing and what they should be drawing. First, it's the scribble. And then they start to make lines, and then they start to do circles, and then they start to do triangles. They start to do sticks and make figures. There's a progression that happens. It's very developmental. But what happens is that we stop it by saying, oh, work on making something better. Or they see you drawing something that's so much quote unquote better than what they can draw. And they'll say, well, can you draw me a heart? I can't draw a heart. I don't know how to do it. And so we set them up for failure that way because we make them think there's a right and wrong way to do it, right? When in reality, that's what's so amazing about artistic expression is there is no right or wrong. It's whatever they see, what's their perspective. I want to see how they draw it. So when my child asks me to draw something, even my youngest, my 3-year-old will say, like, can you draw a plane? I know how to draw a plane from my perspective, how I draw it, but I'm curious how you see a plane.
I love that.
I want to see you draw the plane. How do you see it? And so I find that helps boost their self-confidence. Something else is comparing. It's harder when you have multiple kids not to do this, but this is something that I dealt with as a child. And so it was really important for me. Obviously, our parents struggled when we were kids, and no one realizes the effects of comparing. And it's hard not to, because it's human nature, right? So trying not to compare one sibling against another, but saying, oh, there's so many amazing gifts and abilities that each and every one of you guys all have. Some of you are stronger in some things, and some of you guys are stronger in others. And it's really just all about being different, because if we were all the same, we'd be quite boring. And so that's why I explained it to the kids. And plus, they learn to value their own progress versus measuring themselves up against a peer or their sibling, right?
I like that, even though I don't have to deal with siblings. I think that's important.
Well, even against a peer. Oh, well, he can hit the soccer ball better than I can. And so they have to learn to value their own progress and what they bring. And so that happened with my oldest, right? He didn't have necessarily the skills when he first started out, because we started him later. But he was such a cheerleader for the team that the team members all loved, that he made everybody feel good. And he ended up becoming the captain because he kind of knew how to boost everybody up, right? And eventually he got to figure out those skills that got them better footwork and whatnot. And as he got older, he got better. But because he had that ability to make everyone feel good in what they were doing, he was an important member of the team. And so what I tell the kids is that even though they may not have the technical skills that another student or another peer might have on a team, they also bring something to the table. And whether that's cheering them on, whether that's teaching different warming up skills before you practice, or just being a good teammate in general, that's an important skill to have. And it's important to make the team work, right, together. And I like to compare it to professional sports teams and how important it is. If you just see one player come on the team, and I explained this to my son when he was younger, there was this famous soccer player, Zlatan, and he was so pompous, right? And it was all about himself, right? And he came out.
He would say things like, "Los Angeles is lucky to have me," or something.
Yes, exactly. And while he was an amazing player and he has amazing skills, he didn't participate with the team, and he never quite connected with that. And that was a big deal. And so they didn't always win. And so it takes a team to win together. One person doesn't make up a team. So that helps boost a child up.
I love that you also taught me after games, no matter what happens, whether your child scores a goal, hits a home run, whatever it is, or doesn't, I always congratulate on the effort and the sportsmanship, no matter what. Mm-hmm. So I loved watching you lead the cheers for your team, or console the pitcher after a tough inning, or whatever he was doing that was being a good teammate. I always, to this day, try to remember.
It's important to see. And to be honest, my oldest daughter was watching my son's soccer game the other week, and the other player fell down and hurt himself. And so I had an ice pack, and so I brought it over to the other player, and she said, "Why would you bring it and give it to the other side?"
Ooh.
And I said, "That's a really important question." And I said, "It's important to always help everyone, not just the people on our team. When we don't have another team to play with, we wouldn't be able to have fun on the field. And we always have to find ways to help one another." And that's something we ask at the dinner table is, what's one way that you helped someone today? Because that's a way that you boost your confidence as well.
I want to add that question to my.
And then what's something that you failed at? Because I want to promote failure, because we are all inevitably going to fail at something. And failure is important because that's the way you learn. And so we talk about how we mess up. I turned the wrong way when I was driving, and it cost me 10 minutes. Now I'm going to prepare myself next time to look up where I'm going. So because I didn't have time to look it up and I had no service. So went the wrong way. So just talking, and it doesn't have to be a big mess up, but sharing things like that. And it doesn't have to be every day. I find people get stuck on like, oh, but I have to ask those questions every day. Once a week. Because it takes time, especially if you have a lot of kids and they all go through and ask all their questions. And they all want to contribute. Once a week. That's all you have to do.
Love that.
I think when a child trusts the adult that they're with is really important. So when you validate their feelings, mirror what's going on for them, that they feel comfortable. Again, and it's about back to feeling comfortable talking back to you. And it's not that you're not going to hold a boundary. I think that often gets missed. Just because you're validating a child's feelings doesn't mean you hold a boundary. You don't hold a boundary. You always hold the boundary. You can let them know, I get that you're really upset that you really wanted this cookie. I get that you're really upset that you wanted to stay home with your friend and play more, stay at their house to play more. But that doesn't mean we're not going to leave. We're going to leave.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're going to have the cookie. We're just not having it right now. And so those all contribute to self-confidence. And I find when they're struggling at school with self-confidence, it's really about when they're older, role playing with them and letting them know, okay, well, what would you tell your best friend to do? What would you tell your sister? What would you tell your sister to do?
So 2 things you wanted to add to the confidence part.
When you're praising kids, I know there's a lot of, oh, don't praise them too much or don't just say good job. And it can be very overwhelming for parents and feeling like, what should I say? But the problem with constantly praising a child is that it becomes inauthentic. Every picture is the most amazing picture. Every building that they make is the most amazing building. And so the child starts to not believe it or trust you. That's why I like to focus on the effort. When my child says, what do you think of my picture? I see so many different colors that you used. What do you think about the building I just made? Wow, it looks quite strong. And so when you focus on that, you're not always being insincere about your comments. And so just be mindful that when you're going to give praise, be sincere about it. Next thing is like group activities. I find when siblings starting to have a lot of rivalry with each other, there's a lot more behind that. But when they're playing a game against each other, oh, I won, you won, I lost, and like, that's not fair. Finding ways to do things collaboratively. There's a lot of collaborative games out there, or even just building a puzzle together.
Didn't you used to like that game, Hoot Hoot Owl?
Those are for younger kids, but yes, that's a great game because they have to work together to achieve a common goal.
Got it.
One more thing to add to the artistic side. When your child is painting, I find that parents often want to, or they ask me like, what colors can I give to them? And I want my 1-year-old to paint. This is again about capability and what they should be having at this age and about what's developmentally appropriate. When they're a toddler, ice and water with a paintbrush is all they need. And when you give a child too many colors, not only is it overwhelming, but then they feel the need to draw more and more, and it becomes harder and harder. And so something I learned in Waldorf when studying it is that they paint the entire paper just one color. And I find that it's multi-purpose, the intention behind it, but I find that children become a lot more artistic and confident in their artistic ability when they first just start with one color and making sure to actually paint the entire paper. And then they add on a second color, and then they add on a third, and then they get into specific movements. And so it boosts the confidence that way in a developmentally appropriate way, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I love that. So a lot of questions about building confidence specifically with ADHD and anxiety children.
So transitions can be very difficult with kids with ADHD and anxiety. And so predictability is something that's very important, especially for kids with ADHD and anxiety, because when they feel secure, then they tend to be much more confident in what's going on. And so if you have difficulties with having a rhythm, making sure to anchor the day with your morning routines, your meal times, your bedtimes, And so they end up not failing at all those transitions throughout the day. Lots of kids may struggle with academics when they've got anxiety and ADHD going on. But where they shine is more real world activities, right? Cooking, gardening, and they see the achievements of those things. They can produce something, they can grow something, they can make something. And so those are ways to boost a child's activity, a child's self-confidence. Often with kids with ADHD, when you present them with a task, it can be very daunting for them because it's so overwhelming and it's a big task. But when you break it up into parts, it can be a lot easier for them to accomplish. And so when you break it up into just several parts, they feel much better that they can actually accomplish that task. Something else with ADHD kids is that they often feel different and they feel like something's wrong with them, when in reality, they have so many superhero gifts and some things that they can do that others can't. And so what I like to do is focus on that and let them know what those gifts are. The amazing creativity that kids with ADHD have, the hyper focus that kids with ADHD have. Emily goes nuts because I have an ability to hyper focus. So when I get in that mode, she realizes that she's not going to eat for 6 hours because I can hyper focus on something.
Oh, I'll eat. I find a way, my friend.
But kids have those gifts. And so we have to focus on those gifts. Kids who are anxious are much more of an empath. They're much more feeler, much more of a feeling child. And so that's a really great gift to give to society, that a child, obviously we don't have them feeling so anxious to the point that it messes up their daily life. But when a child's very highly sensitive, that's really important. We need highly sensitive kids in this form.
And grown-ups.
And grown-ups. Love you, Emily. Highly
One of
sensitive.
them on this call. I used to say that was my biggest weakness, and now I say it's my biggest strength.
It's your biggest strength. It is, because you're a deep feeler. And we need deep feelers.
That's right. So I feel for those deep feeling children.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
That's it. I think we're good. If
you guys have more questions, we can also elaborate a lot more on self-confidence. Just put them wherever you tell them to put them, Emily.
You can DM the podcast and we can answer your questions as well. Or we can do another episode on self-confidence if that's something you're looking for. So thank you, Great. Natasha.
This podcast does not constitute medical advice or recommendation. Please consult your doctor.